Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of The Angriest Man in Orlando. I am the angriest man in Orlando, Anthony here. Happy 2024 to everyone. I have not seen everyone in quite a while. It's great to have you back. Great to get back to complaining about all the things that make us angry. So feel free to drop any comments of what you think might be making you angry. And I'll go through a few of my stuff as we go through the program. Once again, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you're watching us live or in the playback option where you're just doing a replay, I want to thank you. You've made this channel, show, and everything that I've been doing so much more exciting, knowing that this message is going out to people and hopefully helping them cope with everything that's going on in the world, and it helps me a little too. So let's get into it. What's going on? It is 2024. We're back, another full season this year. And I think 2023 was really the year of F around. I'm going to try not to swear so much this year. We're going to see how that goes. F around, and 2024 seems to be the year of finding out. 2 days into the year, Cat Williams had his interview with Shannon Sharp on the Club Shay Shay show. That's a lot to say. And basically dropped bombs on people with all the accusations and allegations and everything. And I'm sorry to say I missed it. I was not on the air at the time, was actually vacationing, doing some time away to not be so angry. But holy cow, look at this. Picked the wrong time to do that. And then Monique came on, and I believe Terry Crews was just recently on there, blowing up the Hollywood community a little bit with all the stuff that nobody knew was going on, and it's happening. So we're really excited to see all that stuff because, hey, this is what's really going on in the world. This is what makes people mad. And if it makes you mad enough, you're bound to come out and say something about it. So that's what this show is about. Feel free. Let me know what makes you mad. So, a couple of things that make me mad are still the same things that made me mad before. So we'll go through with that. I am in Orlando, as the title tells you. Number one is traffic. Still terrible as always. They're still trying to redo I-4, which is our main highway connecting coast to coast in Florida. Runs right through Orlando, and it is an absolute mess. Constant traffic. The snowbirds are getting ready to leave in a few months, going back up north for the summer. But we've had the festivities. We've had the golf tournaments. We've had the motorcycle week just wrapped up. We had a few other major events going on. So the traffic has been absolutely horrible. Just be prepared for it if you do visit. Doesn't help that people just don't pay attention, which is our segment tonight. People just not paying attention to stuff. And in a few minutes, we're going to go through the major thing that's happening in society that probably no one is talking about or paying attention to. So we'll start off with a few things here. I had a teaser trailer video that was going to introduce coming back. If anyone saw it, it's on the X, I guess we call it now, the Twitter. If you saw it, it was there. And we're going to explain that also a little later in the show. I did do some research on this, and I found out who's sitting in those graves. And it might actually surprise you if you've been living in Florida for a while. So we'll go through that. So the first thing that makes me angry is Disney. Disney, as usual, is always making everybody angry around here. The latest is Tiana's Bayou Adventure is getting ready to open up this summer. Photos came out of it, and it's not even worth me showing the photos. Brown water, which looks really bad with the new paint job underneath the water, which I could best explain that if you paint a pool light blue and you put clear water in it, it'll look nice and blue. Looks like water you want to be in it. But if you paint it black, it would look like black water, which no one really wants to go into. It almost looks like oil at that point. If you were to paint it red, your pool would look like a pool of blood. Thin blood, but would look like blood. And I'm not sure many people would actually want to jump into that either. And what they did was they repainted the bottom of the lagoon a dark brown. And it looks absolutely horrible. It looks septic tank like almost. If anybody has one of those, you'll know what I'm talking about. It looks absolutely terrible. The whole attraction just looks like a giant fern tree hanging down over it. It looks absolutely ridiculous. And it just keeps me up with my anger towards them that they just can't get anything done. The bright spot is the person who is the head of Imagineering actually got fired. So they're making some headways through some stuff to try to fix some of this. But when you keep releasing shit, then you basically are going to keep people angry no matter what you're doing. There was also a couple other firings. Interesting stuff. The head of the live action part of their studio actually got fired about a week and a half ago. And they just laid off today, I believe this morning, the head writer for the new X-Men 97 series on Disney Plus, Mr. Bo DeMayo, I believe his name was, didn't even make it to the show opening. The show doesn't actually open till March 20th, which is about in a week or so. Already got fired. So Disney is making some changes. We don't know what they actually are going to turn out to be because we don't know who's actually going in after these people. So we'll have to wait and see where it goes. The major problem, and I actually have a whiteboard. We're going to demonstrate what the major problem for Disney is with the whiteboard. And the major problem for Disney, which is a major problem for a lot of industries, is called DEI. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that is right there, which you can't barely see if I can get this on, which I do have it inverted, don't I? Ooh, okay. So let me see. This is a one-man show after all, and we do try our best with this stuff to do things and to do certain ways of doing stuff. And sometimes I'd love to have like a producer here who could just go into settings and change a bunch of stuff and say, "Ooh, okay, great. Can you fix this real quick because it doesn't quite look right?" So you may have just seen the shift there. And hopefully, if we can get it up in there. Yeah, there we go. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. This is what is going into all your favorite industries. That's right, Hollywood, education, politics, even aerospace. A lot of flight companies. I'm at a loss for words right now. Sorry, folks. But United, Delta, all those companies that you know that fly you around, they're even getting thrown in with DEI. If you've noticed, they are basically picking up people more based on their race, ethnicity, gender, than possibly their resume, experience, education, that kind of stuff that helps people get a better job and know what they're doing on that job. So DEI is basically infecting industries. right there. If we can focus real quick. Focusing. There we go. Industry. DEI is infecting all type of industries, automotive, all kinds of stuff. And what is happening is either an internal department or another company outside the company altogether will come in and say, "Hey, listen, we want you to be open to all types of people. But if you're open to a certain type of people, we know investors who can give you special financing, special loans, extra money when you need it. So, we're just saying if you do what we tell you to do, we can get you better ways of doing business." I know this sounds like a shakedown, like a Sopranos episode if you were watching it. But what's crazy is where are they getting the money from? Well, there's a couple big companies, but we call them basically investment banking. So I'm going to write down a couple of these big name companies and see if maybe you've heard those names before. So that would be BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, basically the big banks and big investment firms that take money from, like, say, 401ks and investment people and investment banks who want to give their money to them, mostly these three companies, and get a return on your money. So those people, you say, well, who'd be giving their money to those companies if they're trying to push this DEI into other companies and ruining companies? Because if you've looked at, we're going to break this down by industry. If you look at Hollywood right now, a lot of movies, not making a lot of money. Bombs. Madam Web, The Marvels, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the Marvel series, Star Wars series. None of these movies are making any money. In the automotive industry, they're pushing green energy and electric cars. And what's happening now? Electric cars aren't selling. Tons and tons of vehicles just sitting on lots right now. The biggest culprit, Ford Lightning. I actually just saw a Ford Lightning that's a couple of years old at a dealer used for $44,000 when this truck was originally a $100,000 truck. So would you buy something that in a couple of years it would lose more than double its value? I don't think you would. So the green energy deal, not working at all. People are not buying this stuff. Companies are now losing tons and tons of money on this and now are reverting back to the internal combustion engines in vehicles that they built before and saying, "Hey, we said we'd go all electric by 2030, 2035, and now they're changing their mind on a lot of and they're saying, "Yeah, we're going to keep the gas engines in our cars for a little bit longer and see if we can, see what happens now." And education, you're seeing the major backlash from parents and students and some faculty even. They're saying, "Hey, wait a minute. We would just want school to be school. Math, science, reading, social studies, technical school, and all that stuff. We don't need to know everybody's little business of what they're doing at home." So you see, it's starting to really backtrack from where it was a couple of years ago, which I think people were in the COVID reaction environment and they were just not understanding what was going on or what was happening at the time. There were some voices that were yelling aloud, but they were starting to get drowned out and People weren't really listening. But I think this year, 2024, is going to be the year where everybody finds out and everybody understands what's really going on. And so you've got those big companies that are giving the money to DEI. If I can hold that up there. There we go. Getting there. Going to DEI, which is then telling industry to play nice and we'll get you more money and we'll keep your industry going. Trying to get that so the light does not catch that. So I do apologize for this. And we're just trying to get that so everybody can see. There we go. So your DEI is pumping the money into industry, which is then giving absolute dog shit to investors. And who are these investors? Well, these investors are you, the public. That's right. The public, you. Because who's investing in these major banks? Well, these major banks are basically taking a lot of the money from 401ks, investments in stocks, and other loans and resources that they're putting out to people so that they can get their money. And then they're funding the DEI with it. So if you've ever been at a company that offered a 401k and they always say, oh, we've got this great fund here. It's called the Vanguard Fund. It always appreciates. It always gives you a great return. You should invest in it. Well, that's one of the major names on our board that is actually pumping out the DEI. BlackRock. The president of BlackRock was actually in an interview where he said that he would have more power than the president if he stayed where he's at as president at BlackRock, and he could actually force behavior onto people from where he was. Didn't need to do commercials, didn't need to do any propaganda or anything like that. He had this magical engine here called DEI to basically force industries to play along and put out what they needed to do to tell you what you should like and what you shouldn't like. And who's been pumping it? You, the investors, with your 401ks and everything. It's the cycle of doom right here. Now, how does it change? Well, they're very rich people, and you could say, well, we can just tax them into oblivion and they'll blow up and then we've got no problem. But that's actually not the solution. The solution is something quite different. If you have that much money and power, which is what they're trying to pull in, even more money and power from all of us, little folk who just want to have a nice retirement, nice little savings to, buy a little house on the beach and hang out and do that. Well, you can't just tax them because they'll find ways around paying tax. Anyone who has an accountant and half a sense of anything could find ways around the tax codes. Buying real estate gives you write-offs. Opening a company and a business gives you write-offs that you can hide tax money into it. There are offshore banks in other countries that you can hide money in and get around this type of stuff. So taxation is not the solution. But don't worry, I bring the problems, but I bring the solutions. The solution is with your money. Simply don't buy the DEI. Don't buy the DEI. If you see movies that are basically mostly telling you how to feel, what to do with things, don't buy into it. That's it. If there's something you don't like, don't buy it just because everyone says it's the latest and greatest thing. That's the easiest way to do it. There's, a multitude of ways to do it like that. Another thing, you might want to not invest in a 401k. Though 401k was basically started by the government for people who went through the recession and were not saving any money beforehand. So this was a way that they could put money away, uh, invest. Employees could match, which that came along later, and you could have a savings for retirement without really thinking about it. So it helped people who didn't know how to manage money and didn't know what to do and didn't know how to invest or how to save or any of that. But we live in an age where, look, we have technology. You can watch me on your little screen on your phone. You can watch me on your computer, tablet, laptop, even TV. And we have technology that can give you information in the blink of an eye. So you can do the research and learn this stuff and figure out what's going on in the world. And I think maybe for some people, a 401k isn't the best thing. If the stock market crashes, you crash with it. If the stock market goes up, you go up with it. But you're not in control of your own money. So if you want to do a little bit of research, you find out where you should put your money, where's the best return. And that way you're not giving your money to companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, who are going to use the money to basically tell you what to do, what to feel, what you should be attempting in your life. So it's something to think about. And trust me, the research on this actually scared me a little. It actually angered me also, which is why I'm bringing it to you, the folks who want to listen to the truth. This is something that's been going on for actually about 8 years or so now. It really started around 2016 or so. And it's funny, I was working at the Walt Disney World Resort and told a few people after I'd been working there for a few months, I'd give it about 10 years and this place is going to look completely different and not really be where someone wants to go. And it's funny, it's about 7, 8 years later, and I'm pretty much on the mark. I was a little late because I was it would have been a couple years later, but I'm right about on the mark where it's kind of questionable to whether you actually want to spend your money there. Travel site last year actually named it the worst travel spot based on the cost and all the extras you have to pay for there. So I was pretty much on the mark on that one. But again, if you want to start changing the stuff, pull the money away. Pull the money away, you pull the power away, and it's going to make everything a lot better. So that was a little something I was angry about. It's definitely something to think about. We can do more in depth into what you can invest in and how you can invest, and we can do other things on that. We could break down if we see anything changing. We'll come at you and let you know. Like I said, there were a few firings at Disney. A few auto companies are changing the way they're going to be doing stuff. Some education places are changing. Florida's passing laws against this, basically stating that, hey, we don't need to teach kids sex education before the third grade. I mean, I really don't think if you're in second grade where you're trying to learn what colors are primary and what colors are secondary. And yes, I know blue, red, and yellow are primary. Orange, green, and purple are secondary. So those are the things you're going to be learning in second grade. You really don't need to know, what's a woman, what's a man, what two men do, what two women do, what men and women do. I mean, you can really push that back to like 14, 15 years old, or maybe even later, because some of these kids are too stupid to even realize what that is. And it just it lets kids be kids is really what it comes down to. We all grew up just playing, uh, sports in the street, talking about friends, going to the skating rink, going bowling, hanging out at the beach. Like we just did that stuff. We didn't care who was who or what was what or what they were doing. Nobody thought about it. Nobody cared. We had sleepovers where it was co-ed. Nobody was thinking about doing anything with anybody. Everybody, hated everybody or liked each other or whatever. It was just, you know, nothing was going on. So let kids be kids. That's the best way to break down what's going on with that stuff. All right. So you saw the teaser video. If you saw it, it's on my X account, which I will leave up right now. That is the X account, or just type in the Angriest Man in Orlando on Twitter, and that'll bring you to it. So you would have saw the video if you did see it. If not, go see it now. Just pause. And then come back, and we'll go over it. So I went to a local Publix right around where I live, and was basically driving through the parking lot and realized that there was a giant stone in the middle of the parking lot. Well, maybe not the middle, but off to the side a little. And I went up and I investigated, and it turned out it was actually a cemetery. And the crazy part is there are two people in there. There are two headstones in there. So I did a little video, and you can actually go see who is out there in the video and see the stones and see where it is, because I did, base it off some landmarks, so you can kind of, if you basically stand where I was standing looking at those landmarks, you will see who and where it is. So there are two, let me get this straight here. There are two soldiers in there. And what might surprise you is they are Union soldiers. Yeah. Not the Confederate, which was the Army of the South, but the Union, which was the Army of the North. This is going back to Civil War. If you don't know what this is, people, just Google it. Pull up your history book and go from there. Civil War, 1860s. Yeah. So I found out who these two people were, which I'm going to put up right there. All right, there we go. They were Charles H. Foster and Washington Ludwig. Yes, two Union soldiers. So Charles H. Foster was from the 3rd Massachusetts Cavalry, and Washington Ludwig was from the 1st New York Light Artillery. So they were Northerners who had moved down south after the Civil War and passed away down there and were buried there. And what's crazy is the cemetery is actually from 1924. The land was actually woods at the time. So basically, it must have been they were just living nearby or in the woods somewhere there, and they buried them there. So the property owner at the time was going to sell to the developers who developed the land, who put the Publix there and the Gators Dockside and all the other little stores and restaurants there. And they basically said, we'll sell you everything except the cemetery. We're going to keep the cemetery there. It's a little 25 by 25 square foot area. It's got a metal fence around it. I did not go inside of it. I just sort of stood at the fence and took my pictures and video, and you can see that from the video. And basically said, we're going to try to preserve this area. This is something that people need to see. It's a ticket to the past. It's an experience that makes you think and wonder, like what people were thinking back then, how people were living back then. It's something exciting. I'm a history buff. I like learning about this kind of stuff, and it was really fun to go find out who these people were and why they were there and what was going to happen to the area. It is going to stay a cemetery. Um, the, the owner actually cracked a joke. We hope that no one will actually crash through it when they're leaving the parking lot. I hope, everyone stays within the speed limit in the parking lot and, does not destroy the area. But I thought it was really cool. It was a really fun time going out there to see it. You never really think you're going to see a cemetery in the middle of a parking lot at a grocery store like that. It's really fun, really exciting, and something that's just weird, I guess, and kind of out of the ordinary, and always fun to look at and just kind of find out what it is. Uh, Reminds me of when I used to live up in Massachusetts. So a fellow Massachusetts person myself. Um, we had an old fort up there, and it was really fun to kind of explore around. And they probably didn't want you in it, but we went in it anyway, and it was fun. It was exciting. It was interesting to see how soldiers, fought for our independence, because this is a fort that's going back to the early to late 1600s, so basically the 1600s, and was fought in had fighting in the Revolutionary War from there. So that's something to think about, is that we at one time had to fight to break away from a government that was overtaxing us. Think about that for a minute. We fought to break away control from Britain and King George. And I wonder today if that fighting spirit is still in us. I don't know. It's interesting to see. There are some who have the fighting spirit, you can definitely see, but will we, if it gets hard enough, will enough people pick up and go and fight for freedom? I'd like to say I am one of those people that will, if need be, which it seems to be getting that far. I'd fight for freedom. I would go where I need to go, do what I need to do. There isn't much that I have here where I'm at, so, I'd pick up and go. And you really have to think about that. Like people living in, the late 17, early 1700s, late 1600s, who were, you know, just regular people, farmers, blacksmiths, you know, shoemakers, uh, just your general people who were living in villages who said, "Hey, we're not taking this anymore, and we're going to fight." And while I'm not preaching violence against anything, there are other ways to fight, but I'll leave it at that. So, think about that. If you were back then in the 1600s and 1700s, and there was a call to join this new country that was coming to help save it and help prosper, would you join? Something to think about there. All right. We had a little bit of time. So we went over a few things that were making me angry. I'm checking the comments. We don't have anybody quite yet, but hopefully we'll get a few people in who maybe want to leave a comment after the fact, after they're watching this and everything. And let me know what you get angry about. Perhaps I have a solution for it. I do like to not just bring the problems, but bring the solutions. And hopefully I can help you out and maybe solve a few problems. So that's going to take it for now. So our schedule is going to be Tuesdays at 8ish. I was actually a little bit late tonight, but we'll say 8ish. So every Tuesday, 8ish, hang out, burn some steam off, feel better about yourself. Maybe, hey, maybe you don't like the stuff I don't like, and you're like, damn, at least somebody said it. Good for them. So come on in, join the show. I am also part of Two Men in a Room. We do want to apologize once again for last Thursday. There was a last minute snafu with some stuff, and we don't want to put out a show that isn't going to be of the best quality. So we had to hold back, and we do apologize, but we are going to be on this Thursday, March 14th. We're going to be doing our back to normal show. We'll catch up on everything we missed. Any controversies we have, we can go over, and it'll just be a lot of fun. My co-host will be there, and it'll be really, really great. And then we've got a special event we're going to Friday, and we'll see how that goes. We might do a special show on that. We'll work some details out with my co-host and see if we can do that. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or following on Rumble. That way you get a little beep every time we jump on. I saw a few people jumping on to watch tonight's show. I want to thank you for watching tonight's show. But make sure you're following and subscribing. That way you know when our shows drop. We try to do a familiar schedule with everyone, but sometimes things happen. Sometimes we might have to move a show or do a special show on a special night. So if you want to even just catch the replay of it, that notification will come up on your phone or TV or whatever you're watching on, and you'll know when to tune in and when to watch, and if we drop anything, when you can watch it again. So thank you, everyone. I'll be back next Tuesday to going over all the angry stuff again. Stay tuned this Thursday at 8 o'clock on the Two Men in a Room channels. We'll be doing our podcast on there, going over all the fun stuff we do on that channel. Thank you once again, everyone, for watching, listening, or just throwing darts at your TV because you hate me so much. So have a great night, everyone, and I'll see you next time.